It's never working. Nobody's
What's
here.
up? It says 0 people watching, so I guess it's just me and you,
Oh,
Steve.
well, yep, just us chatting.
What you want to talk about?
Um, let's not talk about. I don't care. We can talk about anything.
Roger.
There we
ET,
go. They're coming in.
ET. If you're trying to cut down on bleeding of materials, get yourself some regular clear coat, some crystal clear coat, and spray it with that before you start painting it. That way, the clear coat does the bleeding instead of the colored pigmented paints. Little tip for you there. You can use that one.
Yep. Yeah. Even
So,
I've noticed on like if I get a really sappy wood,
yeah.
uh, and you have a really heavy burn, sometimes that'll stain the edges and even soak into it. So you kind of want to be careful there, cleaning it with anything. Like if you use, I wiped down some alcohol with it. Well, that just soaked it into the grain. I should have just sanded it off. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, after you engrave it that way, that basically what you're doing, ET, is you're giving that thirsty wood something clear to absorb instead of giving it something colored. So that if you do have any bleed, it's not going to adversely affect the color that goes in there. Because once you clear coat it, then you paint it, and if you clear coat over top of it, it's going to get clear coated on it anyway. So that'll help. That'll help with that situation, anyways.
so this was a question that was asked of me just a couple days ago. But what are your thoughts on clear coating before engraving or after?
I really do it after on most
Hmm.
stuff. And reason being is I got that little that sander right there.
Hmm.
So I like making things pop after I engrave them. I like running air assist when I'm engraving, so you're gonna get a little bit of discoloration. I hit it with a little bit of 120 grit, and or either if you really want to be fancy, you can go up to 220 and sand it, hit it with some compressed air, and then put whatever finish you want on there. So
Well, I think the idea that, and I've played around with this in the past, is you can, if you seal it first and then engrave through it, you can then just wipe off anything that sticks to that sealer with some alcohol as well. But I'm with you. I'd rather just sand it and then dust it off and then seal it. But the question was proposed to me, and that was kind of my suggestion. But there are a few times I think that, well, also I'm not sure I want to laser through most, you know,
yeah, and that was
finishes.
my big thing is what kind of
But
materials are you vaporizing when you go
yeah,
through that when that and that just seems like it'd be a little harder to get off of a lens than say just wood soot. So that's
yeah,
but I mean whichever. I don't guess there's really a wrong way, but that's just my preference.
yeah.
So what's up, Brandon? Light source. Oh, hey, I talked with him today. Oh,
Yeah.
that is Patrick, the third part, and I remember his name finally. The third part of the live that Steve, Rich and him do, and Steve. Uh, where's my chat messages? Oh, they're over there. Okay, they were hiding. So I would say hey to everybody, but there's actually quite a few folks in here. I see Brian's with us, ET, Sharon, Hobo. There's Hobo over there. Quite a few of the regulars in here today. It's starting to be like cheers. Uh, but uh, but yeah, y'all. If y'all missed it, the shop. I've got so much more space now. Now I did burn a lot of wood that some of y'all would have loved to have had, but never fear. Klein toted as much as he could out of here before I got to burning everything. But I had to make some room to move some stuff around, and you can tell that there has definitely been some stuff moved around back here. And but it's a lot better
I,
already.
I try, but it just seems like a constant shuffle. So
Brian said he's lost already.
now I did move some wood around today because I was actually milling some down for some projects coming up. So it's not just static. it does get worked with.
Yep. Well, I had a bit of a wood hoarding problem, and there's there's a cat. Uh, but uh, but yeah, it was a mess. What kind of box did you buy? Are they talking to me on that? The toolbox?
Maybe.
It was all that Lowe's had, which is a Craftsman. It's the 63 inch, and they really like that thing. Oh my gosh, it really hurt when I stuck my card in there. I like felt it as I purchased it, so it really
Yeah.
hurt. But I had to have it.
So I've bought a couple of. I don't think quite as big as that one. I think they're more like. How wide is that one? Is that like 60-inch wide?
The 63 on the top,
It's 63.
like
Yeah. So my
yeah, that
mine I think that I bought are like 48 by 24, and I bought one, the Husky brand from Home Depot, of course, and then the other one was a U.S. General from Harbor Freight. And I got to say, I think the quality goes to the U.S. General at Harbor Freight on the overall build quality of these two cabinets that I've got. So
yeah. I looked at theirs, and I didn't have a problem with theirs, but I like this one. I like the depth, and it was exactly the right size that I needed to be able to set, a We Create and a Jinmitsu on. So,
hmm
so I went with it.
hmm
Somebody had a question a minute ago. Let's see what we
there's
got
been a
here.
few.
Well, I'm trying to catch them. Uh, it's hard to follow all of them. Okay, there's been some bit of a changes in my opinions on lasers in the past week or two. This thing over here, guys, I see why Rich and Patrick and all of them are talking so much about the machine, but do not forget to look at the rollies if it's in your budget. Oh, I was shocked, uh, to say the least, and it has amazed me. And I have been testing it and running it through the paces today. The honeycomb looks like I've had it for a week, but I haven't. I've just been running the stew out of the thing to see what it'll do, and it's surprising me. So let's work that one into your rotation if you're looking for something that comes with its own enclosure and pretty much everything you need except for a you know computer. I mean, if that's it's pretty nice. I'll put it to you that way. I am preparing to do my full review. I'm probably going to throw a few clips from the unboxing that we did live and throw it in there. But yeah, guys, I've got the 30 watt, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's outperforming my Acer V35, the longer B1. Every other 30 watt I've got in here, it's running speeds faster than they are. And I thought maybe it was because it was clean and brand new. So I have been cutting, cutting, cutting. I've been building these boxes today. Of course, I built one for the rolling, but I've been making these boxes today, and I've been cutting them out on there. And I've cut like 5 or 6 out on it just today, and it's still cutting at like 12 millimeters a second. And that's cutting through knots and everything because y'all know I run my speed down. I don't go as fast as the machine can cut the material. I go down just a little bit below there in case I hit a snag because I use this old cheesy Luon, and you never know when you're gonna have like a little spot like that that's hard as nails. So I run a little bit slower speeds than what I could get by with, just to make sure it cuts through those. And right now, I've been running at 12 millimeters a second, and it is butchering this stuff. So I'm a little impressed. I sent Rich an email and told him to tell Rolly that I need one of these 30 watts, but I need it with a 850 by 450 frame so that it can fit in my big enclosure. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. but
Yeah,
but yeah,
those speeds that you uh, the speeds that you were telling me earlier are pretty darn close to what I was getting with the 48-watt IKEA on cutting. So for a 30, what is that? The 30 or 33 watt?
I it just says 30, but
Okay, so I mean,
it's whew, it's hot. But yeah, it's nice so far. This one's got the switch where I can run it in 10, which I probably never will, except maybe for some testing. But Hey, I can't help it. They put it on the paperwork, guys. It's right here. And to believe it or not, the graphic that I got for the box was on Rich's Facebook page. So, but it works good. I'm really pleased with it. The only thing that I have found that engineering wise is if they'd have added a spot to put the little focusing tool other than just sitting on the ledge, I wouldn't have been able to find anything to pick at them about. That's the only thing I got, and that's nothing because there's a ledge that works perfect for it inside the enclosure. So it's really surprised me. The speeds, the accuracy, the jigs. I mean, it's nice. I will say. The only advantage, Stephen, that you'll have with the S1 is going to be that you have the length of workspace, but you're losing the height. So but this thing, the camera, I did instead of using their calibration that they send, I went ahead and recalibrated the camera just so that I could do it like I've done all my other ones, and it is pretty much spot on. So far the camera is awesome, as long as you close the lid. If you don't close the lid, it just takes a picture of the back of your head. So, Hobo, I think I'm supposed to be looking into to the need Patrick's files for the riser. Is there a pocket for the focus tool? I started to make one, but I was like, that little edge is working pretty good. I tried using a magnet, but it won't stick to a magnet. But I think Patrick is working with me to get me a set of those legs to try out. But I want mine in black. I think it'd look better in my little aesthetic I got going on over here. But yeah, so far it's a good machine. It's getting high marks from me so far. So just have to watch for the full review once I've really run it through the paces. I've been doing some more testing on it today. Uh, and I found this machine has another dynamic that I didn't know you could do. Found this in the book. You can actually change the frequency of the pulse, which the lower frequency is supposed to make it work better with stainless. And you have to do that through the command. I created some macros to set it to 5, 1, or 10,000 hertz. So, yeah, playing with that right now to see what kind of differences it makes. But straight out of the box, did my little zigzag test. It done good. So, really enjoyed it. Lots more testing to do, but so far, so good. So, what have you had going on this week? Haven't heard a lot out of you. You've been kind of quiet.
Uh, I, I mean, I hate to say it, but I've been troubleshooting lasers.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Well, it's two of them,
Oh,
and yeah, I'm trying. I want to give them a fair shake and whatnot, but I consider myself fairly technically savvy. I consider myself somewhat experienced with diodes, CO2s, others. And when I get frustrated and stuck on something, I can only imagine, you know, the person who is jumping into this without a whole lot of experience, their frustration.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've been fighting with a couple of them, trying to get, and of course the time difference doesn't help when you're sending information, to China and such, and then waiting. So that's been a lot of my week, which then takes my energy out of, making other things. I uh, went shopping to try to find some things to play with the screen printer, and couldn't quite find some of the things I wanted. So I'm waiting on some of those to come in. So just some stuff like that, and
Well,
yeah, it's yeah. I kind of hit it heavy last weekend, and was trying to get caught up on some of those problem machines then this week, and then just wasn't making a lot of progress on it. But we'll see. Maybe a couple days at work will rejuvenate me and make me want to be out in the shop more.
yeah. Well, I had to take a couple of days off to get this shop situated. Like I said, I moved the mine port over there and put the S1 over here because I'm getting ready for another. Oh, and I can show y'all what those things were. Hang on. Now that May has actually released her released her product. I'll show y'all because y'all been asking, and I've been making y'all wait. So I'll show you if I can get it out of this darn jig that I tried to make that was a fail. God, stand by. I gotta bump it out of there. Stand
Bump
by.
it.
Yeah, it's done got in there stuck.
Jeez.
I tried making a jig for these things, and it was a failed attempt. So let me knock this thing out of here. What out, cat?
Good grief.
Yeah, it got stuck. But this is what I was making for her, and I made 100 of them, and talked to her today, and apparently, she sold out. So I'm fixing to have to do another, however many of them. But it's a three-layered thing, and what it was I was up at her open house, and they had these ink pads, and they were setting them on their table, and when they were rubbing the little brush, the ink pad would is like playing whack-a-mole, trying to keep up with it. And I told her, I said, you ought to, get something for that. And so me and her talked about it, and I made one that held a single. But see, they just basically go down in there and lock into this thing, so it holds them, and it holds like three different sizes. So if you got that size, or if you got that size, or if you have this size, you can put them on there. And then the ones I sold her, I didn't waste any on this one because this is my prototype. I put the little anti-slip feet on the back of it. And so when you set it on the table, you can scrub away all you want to, and your ink goes nowhere. And these holes, like I said, they're 3-in-1. So each one of these will fit in any one of these holes. And so far she sold 100 of them. So that was good. But no, this was my attempt at an alignment jig for when I'm putting the layers together. But just FYI, when you're pressing things that have glue on them and they're in a really tight slot, that tends to not work out real well. I need to burn that. But that we wound up just having to do each one by hand instead of trying to jig them. So, but yeah. But it was an interesting build. Me and her came up with that thing at her open house. I did one of my prototypes out front of her building with my portable setup. And then when I got back home, once she approved them, I went to cranking those things out. I think I made 100 of them in 4 days. I have come up with a couple of more tweaks to it, but I don't know if we're going to change this version of it or not. So, but yeah. But now her people are requesting them for every other size ink pad that there is. So I'm gonna have to redesign. But yeah. But that was what I've been working on for. Yeah, Jenny, they sold out kind of quick. I think she sold all of them within the first day or so. So I don't know how many more she's going to order, but I don't know that I want to try to do more than about 50 of them in a week because it's a 3-layer glue up and it has to be exactly right or else it won't work right. So I have to quality control each one of them to make sure that everything works.
Well, you could make a jig out of like, what's the stuff? You could mill it on your CNC out of the.
I done got good at lining them up now.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I use those little binder clips.
It's like a cutting board type material, and I can't think of the name of it, but you can mill it on the CNC, and then it wouldn't stick. The glue wouldn't stick to it, and you could just drop them in and press them and go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I got pretty good at lining them up and everything. Doug May over at May Made It. She's a YouTuber. She's got like close to 400,000 subscribers. She lives right here near me. We're friends, and she does paper crafting and making cards and like little what they call them, folios and that kind of thing. Some of the ladies in here probably know a lot more about it than I do, but yeah, it was. It was an interesting build. I had to get Brandy out here to help me. Brandy's actually really good at gluing them up with consistency because out of the 100 that we glued up, I think I have one that was misaligned and I had to can it after the glue had dried. But I made 105 expecting, to at least have a couple that would have problems. But yeah. Now that little thing there, it didn't work as well as I thought it would, Steve. Or yeah, Steve. So I had to can that idea. But yeah, what the 41 millimeter binder clips is really all you got to have, and we were doing, like I said, 20 or 30 at a time, gluing them up and then doing the next one.
Fun, fun, fun.
Jeff said, "Are you referring to Corian? Corian?
No, no. It's a plastic. It's more like, oh yeah, Mark had a HDPE.
Yeah,
That really kind of slick. It's like milk carton material, so it's really slick. Glue doesn't stick to it very well, and you can build it on a CNC pretty well. But
yeah. But the only problem is you got to leave it in there until it dries, or else when you pull it out, it stands at risk of slipping, unless you're using
just
something
use
like
just use
CA
little,
glue or something."
yeah. Well, just use CA as clamps and wood glue for the major holding. You just gotta have like 4 spots of CA. Put it in there. I do that all the time with stuff. You run your
Yeah.
wood glue on 80% of it. Few spots of CA, accelerator, press it down, CA kicks off, and then the wood glue actually does the majority of the holding.
Yeah, but by the time we got the 100 of them done the other day, we had a pretty good little routine going between me and Brandy. So I think we'll be fine. But as long as we've got a little more notice this next go around, we'll be able to turn them out. And I've
I
got more
heard
machines in the mix now too.
I heard she was going to go on strike for a pay raise, so I don't know. You better factor that into
Oh no,
your
no, she's
plan.
good. She's good.
Oh,
She's
okay. I
good.
mean, that's what they all say until the union just hits them with that. You're out there picketing. UPS won't deliver. That's going to hurt you. If she gets a picket sign in your driveway, UPS will not cross it.
Yeah. Jack, I started to use my high speed dials on this one, the 3 millimeter toothpicks. But I didn't want them protruding out the top of the thing, so I scratched that idea. I actually did one, and I put two toothpick alignment holes in it, and it worked good, but I didn't like the way it looked, so I went away from that.
Well, maybe you should use walnut alignment pegs. And it
I mean,
would look good.
I could have drilled big ones in it and used. I got a whole stack of poplar, quarter-inch poplar dowels over there, but I, like I said, I just didn't like the look of having holes in it. I'm OCD, and I would have had to put 4 of them in there, or at least 2, to make it not mess with my OCD. No, Brian, she's got a little more space in here now. I got enough room. I can set her up a table right here next to me if I need to. So
That's how it starts. Just a little piece of land there, and then they take over more and more.
I don't know. She was about ready to leave the other day after we got through that order. Oh, let's see. Somebody's asking something about settings. That is going to depend on the material. Like I said, guys, I mean, I can tell you a jump off point, but pretty much cutting quarter-inch material, you're going to probably be somewhere, depending on the output of your machine. I wouldn't go any lower than about 6 millimeters a second, even if you have to make multiple passes. But it just depends on your machine, depends on the material, and not all wood is created equal. Some of it's harder than others, based on the glue, based on the type of material, type of wood. I've got 2 different types of material here that was supposed to have been the same material, but it's totally different, reacts different to the laser. So I would definitely just get you a little piece and sacrifice it to the cause. Do you a power and speed test? That's what I do, guys. So I'm not just whistling Dixie here. When I got the Rolly, even though Steve, Rich, and all those guys, they'll all tell you what the settings they're using. I ran my own like 3 times just to make sure where I wanted to go with my settings on my material. So this is a must in my opinion, because you may find that you're going way slower than you need to, or you may be going too fast. But it's like I said, there's a lot of variables.
Yeah,
Jody. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's a little cleaner.
I was
What's
gonna
your?
say, the We Create has their kind of engraving guides that they pop in there based on the material, and what they're using for birch plywood and speeds, and what I was getting out of the machine when I finally got it running, nowhere near. I mean, they're way off as far as I'm concerned. So definitely got to do your own because I mean, and it could just be my material, different type of birch that I'm getting versus China. So it's definitely worth running your own material tests, even if you. Well, I've even found even Baltic birch. I ran into an issue. This was more of when I was running for CNC parts. I got one bundle in, and the 3/8 material was all of a sudden thinner or thicker. I forget which one, but it threw, all my parts needed to interlock and align and having that different thickness. So it's definitely worth checking your material each time because you might get it, different density, different thickness and whatnot, even if it's the same stuff you bought last time.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, Jenny, I saw where my mate was saying they were asking about getting them signed by her and by me, but if she gets to where she's done that before on other stuff, she'll just set them aside and call me, and I'll go in and scratch my initials on them or whatever. But yeah, they
Figured you bring your laser in to do it.
no, they like a Sharpie. Crafters like using Sharpies to sign things. I went to one of May's events one time here locally, and I think there were 60 something people from all over the country. And I just stopped in to help May get some camera stuff set up. She was having some issues, needed a couple of cables, so I went by there to loan them to her, and wound up having to stay for like an hour, meeting everybody and signing the back of Christmas ornaments that I had donated to May to hand out. And it was my very first time of anybody ever asking me to sign something, and it was really really weird. It took me a minute to. I thought they were joking. I was like, y'all were kidding, right? But then I looked, and there's like 60 people in a line, and I'm like, okay, they're not joking. So that was odd. No, I don't know about famous, Brian. Infamous maybe, but not famous. I'm trying to catch up here.
Yeah, hobo. That's very much true. Your environment, altitude, humidity, they all add a difference to the engravings and how well it burns. So definitely, definitely, any one of those variables change. It's good to run another test.
Yeah, that's one thing that scares me about these things that I made for May. And I told her, I was like, look, they're wood. If somebody takes these things and they're in a tropical rainforest, or if they're up north in Alaska where it's really dry in the winter, I was like, it could change, but I had to have them to tight tolerances. So we'll see how it works out. Hopefully they keep them
Well,
inside and out of the humidity.
and you're using plywood, that's going to naturally be less likely to, and it's more going to expand. The thickness is the more likely, so that should have less impact on it. So hopefully you're okay. But yeah, I mean that's very much true. So
Yeah. All the. Oh, wait a minute. There you go. There's one about your lenses.
yeah, glad they're working out well for you, Robert, and hopefully you don't need any more. You get some good airflow going through there. Use your air assist. That stack should last you a long time. I'm shocked at the number of repeat orders I get from some people. I kind of want to reach out to them and say, "What are you doing?"
Like
Well,
me, I'm
you're just
providing.
spraying water on your lenses, but
Well, that and I'm providing lenses for the whole county down
yeah,
here,
yeah,
because
no,
it's like
no,
it's like people like, hey, my laser, hey, Clack, yeah, I'm right here in Chilton County, and I think I cracked my lens. Do you got one I can get from you? And it's like, sure. And then, of course, Klein went through like four of them, just bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And
well,
his
I sent you
cleaning
that
his
little gift
cleaning
bag there.
regimen wasn't good. Oh, I appreciate you. You hooked me up on that. Now I got to give you
Yeah,
that.
so, but yeah, no, happy to help people out with that. But yeah, the more you can get that smoke away from the lens through air assist and good ventilation, the longer your lenses should last. So
Yeah. I just want to know how much Klein sold his stove cover for. I can't say for sure how much he sold that one for. Wait a minute, hold on. Oops, wrong one. I don't know how much he sold that one for, but typically, if he's going by my pricing, and a lot of times he does, it's usually for a custom design, especially, it's going to be like 125 bucks. Uh, and depending on handles. Now, if they wanted specific handles, and I know this lady did, she wanted like some cast iron screen door handles put on it, and I don't know what the price difference in those would have been from the bolt ones that I buy. But he did have to buy them separately because she wanted a particular look instead of the round ones that I
Well,
usually use.
well, that's okay because he saved a ton of money just using everything out of your shop.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really buy anything but the handles, and he did buy his own wood. It was in my kiln, but I already had some cut up, so I let him use some of mine. But no, he did buy his panel and put it in my kiln out there to keep it dry. So, well, I appreciate that, Samuel. Uh,
There you go.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't killed one yet, so I really don't know how to tell you. I know I've got a D1 10 watt that I bought in October of 2021 or whenever they first released them, and it's still going. And I used it a lot and still use it at events occasionally. Now, the 20 watts about took its place for the most part, but I've run that 20 watt at least 3 or 4 orders of Maymay's Bandits, and ain't no telling how many other jobs in this shop. So, I mean, if I ever kill a diode laser, I'll let y'all know how long it took me. But I'm telling you guys, I run this machine over here more in a week than a lot of people will in a month. So it's kind of hard to compare my usage to the average person's.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think what most of them say something like 10,000 hours, but a lot of that is subjective to operating environment and your cleaning regimen and uh, the quality of the manufacturer. Did they provide adequate cooling and allow you to actually clean it out? There's a lot of variables there, and so the best thing you can do is just keep it clean, keep air moving through your enclosure, and uh, do your routine maintenance so that it doesn't have to work any harder than it needs to. So
Yeah, like I said, other than those external lenses, the cover lenses, I haven't had a problem with any of mine. Now, I have had to do some heavy cleaning because I do get them gunked up sometimes. Because I'm not going to lie, there are times when I'm trying to hustle to get a job done that I do neglect cleaning as often as I should, and I usually end up paying for it by having to replace a
mhm.
lens. But it's it's tough when you're running these machines for 8 hours a day for 3 or 4 days. And you're on a deadline. It's tough to shut them down for a minute.
Yeah,
But I had to make
but
myself do it on this last go around.
you're right. I mean, and especially like on a CO2 where you've got mirrors, you've got the focal lens. Any one of those, they get too dirty and they get etched. That's just exponentially more frustrating because now you got to have that specific part on hand, and
Hmm.
now you're pretty much guaranteed a realignment. So taking a pause and doing some maintenance uh, as often as more often than you think you should is generally worth it. So
Yeah. Yeah, like I checked this one today, and it wasn't dirty, but I went ahead and cleaned it because I'd already pulled the module off and looked at it.
mhm.
But I've been running it pretty hard. Cool, Sam. It doesn't take a lot of power, I will tell you that. Mirrors are fun because they don't take a whole lot of power, and they will take really good clarity as far as the engraving stuff that you can do on them, or cleaning, I guess you could say. Well, hello, Nomadic Rancher. Glad you could make it.
Hmm. Um,
Sharon says she picked up some chalkboard slash whiteboard.
oh yeah.
Hang on, let me show you.
Oh,
Well, I
the
can't
show
do
and tell
this.
time.
All my cleaning I done is yeah, I got some of that too.
So have you run it through a laser?
Yes, I've actually got a piece down here somewhere, a smaller piece where I've cut off of it.
Nice.
But now I will tell you this: it's stubborn.
I can imagine. That's usually like hardboard, not even MDF. It's usually like hardboard in the middle.
Yeah, it's that hardy board. But yeah,
It's
I
like
did I did cut some
90%
stuff.
resin.
I did cut some stuff out of it, but I'm going to tell you, it's stubborn. You're going to have to really lay the power to it. I cut some arrows that you could write on with chalk or dry erase, and put
Hmm.
magnets on them. And yeah, it was tough. It is. This is not your typical, you know, 3 or 4 millimeter plywood. It's going to be a lot harder than that. But yeah, I actually got most of my materials to where I can get to it now. So thanks to the cleaning that we did last night, it's a lot better.
All right. So I know we've touched on this before, Doug. So a lot of this is rooted in cheap manufacturing and improper balancing of lasers power systems. So when it came to CO2 lasers, and when China started pumping out a lot of them in generics, they were just grabbing parts off the shelf, throwing them together. Hey, it works. They'd call it something, and so like the one that I bought 8 years ago, it was a 60-watt CO2, but it was a 50-watt tube driven by a 60-watt power supply. So if I had ran that at 100%, I would have been overdriving that tube and definitely killing it. Each CO2 laser tube has a milliamp uh, rating that you're not to exceed, and that should be your 100%. And from there, it's kind of dialing it back. There's actually generally a spot, maybe around 85, 90%, where you're probably hitting your maximum cutting ability. And anything above that is just wasted power. So I'll back it off from there. But my more important metric is that I'm staying below that milliamp rating for that tube. And when it comes to diodes, kind of the same thing. They started, hey, these diode lasers are a thing. Let's start grabbing some diode parts out of, Blu-ray players and such, try cranking some power through them. They're overdriving the diodes, they're burning them out. Nowadays, if you're going with a reputable manufacturer, they're going to balance their power systems. They're going to provide adequate cooling. And as long as you are following the maintenance routine, you should be generally okay to run it up to 100%. Does that create more heat, which would then be destroying it? Possibly. But if you're going to take your 10,000 hours and you're going to run it at 50% so that you're not hurting it as much, your jobs are going to take twice as long and you're going to meet that 10,000 hours just as fast as if you ran it at 100%. But you're going to be spending twice as much time on each job. So it's pick your poison. Are you going to do it through time or are you going to do it through power? So I would, find what works best for you. What's the maximum power you need to run at to run your job at the rate you want it to, and go with that. So that's my thoughts on it. Um, and I'm okay burning up a diode if that's what it means, assuming that I'm making money with it, and I'm eventually going to have to replace it. I'd rather get through my work faster and know that it's a consumable I'm going to eventually replace than spend twice as much time on a job that's maybe only paying so much. So there's a number of variables in there to think about what works for you, but it to me, if you're working with a reputable manufacturer and they have their machine balanced right with the power from the supply to the diodes, then you should be able to run it at 100% without doing excessive damage to it. It may be degrading it faster, but you're also getting through your work faster. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I mean, you never know exactly what is being done on the back side of the machine. I mean, the diode may already be limited on the board by the way the controller's configured or the way they've got it set up.
Right.
But regardless, the way I look at it, like with this machine right here, for example, this machine just doing stove covers makes me about $13,000 a year, just on stove covers. So as long as it lasts me a year, if I have to replace a module or even if I have to replace the whole machine, just on stove covers, I've made enough money with this machine to replace it if I need to. It's kind of like saw blades. Yes, if you really want to be particular, when you're cutting stuff, you should probably get a brush out and brush all the dust and the sand and run metal detectors over it and all that when you're cutting, especially if you're recycling wood. But let's face it, it takes too much time, and time is money. And if I can get a saw blade to last me, if I can get one extra day out of a saw blade doing all that headache, that's not doing me any good. So it's kind of a balance for me. My thing is I need them to cut it and cut it quick, and I ain't got time to be, you know, cutting down the power. I mean, so that's I run mine wide open, and I have not burnt out a diode yet. And this P20 that's hanging above me right here, I wish they had. I wish they had hour gauges on them, so I know how many hours I had on that machine. But I ran it really hard for like 9 months over here in this enclosure through several big orders, all kind of custom jobs. Graduation alone, I probably cut 50 of those big 32-inch names on it, and that's a lot of linear cutting. Because another thing too is when you're running the machine, even though you're running it at 100% power, it's only doing that when it's, when you're, cutting or engraving or whatever. When it's going from space to space, that laser is cut off. So that 10,000 hours is really relative to what kind of work you're doing with the machine, because white space, it's not doing anything. And like a lot of these designs that you burn are probably 50% white space unless you clean them up. So I I haven't noticed any problems with mine, but like I said, keep them clean, and they need good airflow through the module. That's one big thing that I will say is if you let that thing, get to where it can't breathe and it's not cooling, then run it at 100% is going to be a problem because it's going to build a lot more heat, like you said. But if I ever see it's a problem, I'll let y'all know. But so far, I haven't killed one yet that way. Now I've killed them messing with other stuff, but I haven't killed them that way. Oh,
So I know.
by the way, my algo laser's done Lazarus. It's back to life. By the way, it was a firmware issue. The firmware somehow got corrupted in it. But
They just they
Gil
just sent
over
you
at
the hard way
Algo,
to do it first.
yeah, that Gil Gil's kind of like you. He's a really smart guy. So we were doing like the really in-depth way of doing it, and I couldn't get it to work. So he sent me the over-the-counter method, and it fixed it like that. I'm like, why don't we do this first?
Nice.
But yeah. So Gil over at Algo helped me get it reflashed, and it's back up and going. So do not hold your
Yeah,
button
he's
down more than 5 seconds because it will go into firmware mode. If you hit the wrong thing on your keyboard, you can really mess something up.
yeah,
But yeah.
he's a good guy. So glad they got that working for you. So ET's been asking you about your air setup and if you have a good video showing how to set up.
Well, he put the word good in there. I don't know if mine is a good setup or not. I had that issue here a while back where I was popping lenses and it was my darn hair compressor causing it. So now I got like 3 water separators in there, and I'm even looking at putting some silica beads in one of these water separators just for kicks. But I mean, I've got a video that shows the basic parts of what I use. I guess I could do a overall. I could try to work that in maybe this week. That'd be an easy video to do this week of what I'm running right now. And so far, since I found out that there is a filter on the air compressor that you have to keep changed, I haven't had any problems with water. So,
There's a filter on the air compressor.
well, yeah, there's one on yours now since you realized you didn't
Even
have one.
they're supposed to come with one.
Yeah. But yes, if you have an air compressor, there's a little filter on the end of it where it pulls the air in. Make sure to keep that thing clean or replaced or whatever, guys, because mine got stopped up because I was running it so hard, and when it did that, it caused it to start putting more water than normal into the air compressor, and it cost me 3 lenses before I realized I had a problem because it popped this machine and this machine like that, and then I replaced them, and then it popped this machine again. And I'm like, something's wrong because it was like 10 minutes and it popped it, and then it put a wet spot on my material, and I'm like, okay, I got water coming from somewhere. Seeing as how there's no
Mm.
plumbing inside my enclosure.
Yeah, that's how I found
Uh,
out the moisture trap on my CO2 was no longer functional.
yeah.
So all of a sudden I had moisture spraying down on the material. I was like, oh, that's not good.
No, Camaro, it's not dark in here. I have to adjust the camera to keep from washing everything out because I have a whole bunch of lights. So it's not dark in here. I promise you.
Here, I'll try to match.
You can. No, I'm not that dark. I can see what it looks like on the screen. But no, if I turn the I've got the auto exposure on, but if I can, like, it gets bright if I don't turn the auto exposure on. So that's why it looks like that. But yeah. Well, Jack, that's the thing. I drain mine every day when I come out here to the shop. That's the first thing I do before I even power it up. And but it was making so much water right then that it was. You got to understand too, Jack. Like right now inside this shop is 54% humidity, and that's with the mini split running. Without it, it would be like a 90% humidity in here. So I live in a rainforest.
Funny. That's what Minnesota is too. It's humid. Um, Steven's asking, good name by the way. What USB hub would you recommend? And I've run a couple of them. The important thing is making sure you get a powered one, and I'll drop this link in there. This is the one I most recently bought, and I'm currently running my webcam and I don't know, three other things through it, and it's working pretty well. So um, I don't feel you need to spend a ton of money on them. You know, just to make sure it's a powered one and probably supports USB 3, assuming your computer's got that. And just I wouldn't go with more than 4 ports on it, though, 4 or 5 ports. You get some of those that are, you know, like 20 some odd ports, and that's going to spread out that power pretty thin. So
Yeah, Jack. Like I said, I was born and raised in a garage. My dad had a massive 220 air compressor, and I was the kid that had to go drain it every morning. So yeah, I'm familiar with getting rust in there, no doubt. Which now in the shop, the way we did it, of course, you know, it had a lot of oil in that machine. But in here, I run oil free. But I do drain it. And this air compressor, I kill air compressors faster than they can rust anyway. Because I wear the rings in them. I wear them out because mine when I fire everything up in the mornings here in the shop, that air compressor is on and off, on and off, on and off all day for 12, 14 hours a day on the weekends, and then 5 or 6 hours on during the week. So I've done burn up my old one and had to get a new one.
yeah,
My old one literally was it was throwing metal shavings out of the filter housing on it.
that's not good.
Yeah.
So the comparison of a diode laser, someone has a diode laser. Thoughts on getting the CO2? You've thought about it as far as bigger ones. What are what are your thoughts on it?
To get a CO2 with the biggest work area is what I've got in this machine here. You're looking at, if you could get an Ohm Tech or maybe a Mon port for around 3,000 or so, but to get like a Thunder or something like that, you're looking at 8 to 12,000, and that's just a lot of overhead for me. And really, other than there is a speed advantage, I'm not. I mean, if you get a 120 watt laser, I don't care what kind it is, it's gonna move faster than a diode. But me and Brandy just had this conversation the other day because I was like, doing these big jobs a lot of times makes me wish I had something big like that. But then when those big jobs aren't coming in and I'm doing one offs on things, I've just got this big machine over here that I've got a bunch of money tied up in, and it's not doing any work, and it's taking up room in my shop. So I have went for the approach of I've got an army of diodes as opposed to a CO2. And yes, if I had a Thunder, 120 watt CO2 with a 32-inch bed sitting over there, yes, it would crank the stuff out faster than any one of these machines can, but not faster than all four of these machines can. It's not especially since I added this guy, because I've got this guy in the mix now. So I've got one, two, three, four machines, the smallest of which is a 30 watt that I can be cranking out projects with. And between all of them, they probably don't take up as much room as the Thunder that I'm looking at. So It just depends on what you want. Now, if you're doing a lot of acrylic, then CO2 is probably going to be your thing. But I do very little acrylic, and when I do it, I take my Monport CO2 and I vent it and hook it up and cut the acrylic, and then I'm going to roll it right back over there and put it away. Because I
Yeah.
got to figuring the other day the money I've made off of these diode machines compared to the money I've made off of that machine, and I was like, okay, you're out of here. You got to give up the prime real estate. So I replaced the Monport with the S1 because it was about the same size.
Well, now my counterpoint to that is you're comparing possibly the worst possible CO2 laser that you can purchase to some of the best diodes. So there is
Yeah,
that, but as you mentioned, it would cost a fair amount to get the working area. They definitely have their place, like you mentioned, acrylics, but with that power, it comes at a cost of quality, is what I'm going to say. So even just in simple cutting comparisons, so this is a cut comparison. Now, this is not something I sanded, but as you see, everything looks fairly clean. I was running Air Assist on here. So this was the X-Tool D120 Watt Pro. And it cut through this fairly cleanly, both front and back. This was a cut test run on the X-Tool P2. And you notice all the extra kind of just that overburn of vaporization of stuff on the top side. Now it's not on the back as much, but this is something you're going to have to clean up, even though it's clean. It's cut through cleanly. So as the diode lasers are coming up in power, and the fact that the maintenance is easier on them for the most part, uh, unless you need that speed for some reason, because this is cutting fast. I mean, this is eighth inch material at 40 millimeters a second. That's pretty quick. But you're giving up quality at the expense of some more capabilities in materials. So unless you have a real need to just really crank out parts really quickly, um, then I would say stick with the diodes. Push the diode as hard as you can. Maybe get two, unless you absolutely need to be doing that acrylic and such. So
yeah. Now when I'm comparing, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with the bigger CO2s, but I have been pricing and shopping around for them here lately. And the work area, for if you get one of the desktop CO2s, you're going to basically get the P2 or S1, 12 by 20. That's not going to cut it for me. If I'm going to get something that I'm going to spend that kind of money on, I want it to be able to crank out a stove cover, which means I've got to be able to lay a 30 and a half by 22 and a half piece of wood off in there. And that puts me up into the range of, in excess of $10,000 for a machine. Because, like I said, I make a lot of money off of those. But I can take my V35 here and drop them in there and do them all day long. So
mhm.
even though it's slower, I didn't have to go take out a small loan to get it either. That's the
Well,
difference for me.
and your typical open frame diode gives you that flexibility of moving it to the piece. It can be a bigger piece of work, and you can still use it on there. Even the little like the laser pecker and the X-Tool F1 and those, they generally have that pass through where you can set it down and focus it to the material. So you could have a big conference table and put a 3-4 inch logo in there, or one of the open frame diodes like the D1 or the Eightsters or whatnot. So they definitely have some advantages over the CO2s, just because CO2s are going to be enclosed. The working area is what it has, unless you have some sort of pass through, and then it's still limited to the case of the device. So
Yeah. Lisa, it's kind of like cars or vehicles. Imagine picking out a laser is kind of like your vehicle. If you're just wanting something to commute back and forth to work, you're not going to buy the same vehicle as if you're pulling around 3 or 4 horses to events every weekend. It's kind of the same thing with lasers. First, you need to figure out exactly what it is you're wanting to do with it, what requirements you have, just like me. I have to have at least one machine capable of doing stove covers. So, you have to figure out what is it that you have to have and then find out what machines fit that list and then just make a decision. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of the machines are very very similar. There are some that kind of stand out, and I'm testing one right now because I don't know what they did different, but they did something different with the way this machine is built, and it's just it's clean. This thing, Steve, if Steve saw this, he would feel the same way. This thing is clean from an engineering standpoint. They checked all the boxes. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Now I haven't had it but a week or so, so I haven't done a lot with it yet. But I can tell you that it's going to outperform most of the other machines. But then again, I can't fit a stove cover in it. So if I was buying a machine to do stove covers with, that might not be what I want. Now, technically, could I do a pass through and take the bottom out and get a pretty? Yeah, I could if I needed to. But you just have to figure out what it is you're going to be doing with the machine. If you're only going to be doing tumblers, then you don't need a big massive work area. If you're only going to be using 12 by 20 material, like for the Glowforge and so forth, then that's all you need. But you just need to figure out exactly what you're going to do, and then my advice: 20 watts are kind of the new like entry level, I believe. Tens still have a place with engraving on certain materials and doing real high quality photos and stuff like that. But now you've got companies like uh, Rolly that are putting the switches on there to where it goes from a 30 watt to a 10 watt. And I know you've got an iCure or something that does that as well.
Mhm.
So the days of the 10 watt, if you're getting into it, I would recommend a 20 because it's kind of the middle ground right now, and they're getting more and more affordable. Uh, but uh, but there's just a lot of decent machines out there, but some of them have things that others don't, and you need to figure out what it is important to you and figure out which machine has that.
Now
Uh,
I'm gonna check you on something you said though.
what's that?
I've seen plenty of people that have way too much truck for hauling around getting groceries, and I can guarantee you they never pulled anything, and that bed has never seen a speck of dirt.
Well, now some people just like that though, and those are the people. Those are a lot of times those people are doing it for a different reason. Now I drive a F-150, but I haul lumber on a regular basis. Could I drive an F-250? I could, but the two or three times that I pull something really heavy,
I
it's just not worth the
just
extra expense for me.
say,
So,
say all that has been hauled in a minivan. So I'm just
hey, I'm
saying,
not knocking you minivan. I mean, you've shown that your minivan is highly versatile. Now, I don't know what the towing capacity of it would be, but we'll see.
oh, you'd be surprised, but they don't make them like that anymore.
Uh, Isaac, they there's two. That's apples and oranges, to be honest with you. The only thing that they have in common is both of them are self-contained. Uh, to be honest with you, the Rolly has a larger fan than the S1. So it does a little bit better job of evacuating the smoke, to me, in my opinion, than the S1 does out of the box. Uh, but it doesn't have a camera. The Rolly does. It does have autofocus. The Rolly does. I mean, there's a lot of differences between the two machines. Cutting ability, I'm gonna be honest with you, the Rolly is pretty close to capable of cutting as fast as the 40-watt X tool does. I haven't tested them and compared everything together, but it's not far behind it. I don't know what they've done to that beam, but it's just not far behind it at all. But no, those two totally different machines. You can't do but 12 inch high objects in the S1, and you can do roughly 400 by 400 in the Rolly. Uh, Douglas, I don't make me lie. I think I saw the other day where the all inclusive kit wasn't it like 1,600? Steve, one of y'all still in here? Patrick, Steve. I want to say it was 1,600 for the all inclusive kit, but I think the MK2 is currently back ordered right now, which is what I have. I'd have to look
McKim.
and see. Let me check. I'll just have to search it and see.
The which one? The 20 watt or the 30 watt?
Well, I guess it would depend on which one you wanted, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The
The
with rotary, the it's 1300 and for the 20 and 1600 for the 30. It's like
Yeah,
without it's 1099 and 1399 for the 20 and the 30.
yeah. I was thinking it was 16. Is what I looked at.
Which
But
which yeah, I mean that's a for a 20 and a 30 watt laser, you got to remember the accessories you're getting with it.
yeah,
An enclosure is not. I mean, even the tent based ones, they're 50, 60 on up. You want to build your own or get something fancy, it's going to be a couple $100 for just the enclosure, and a lot of them aren't coming with a honeycomb and things like that. So you're getting a lot for that 1300 or 1600, that 20 and 30 watt. Or, yeah,
well, like I said, with this guy right here, pretty much when you open the box, add a computer and you're ready to go. At computer, they even send you Lightburn. Now you got to buy the license if you're going to keep it, but you just pretty much add a computer and start making stuff. The one thing that Rolly did do, and y'all know how I feel about being able to like jig things and recreate things in a machine. Rolly so far is the only machine that I have came across diode wise that has that, and they have a jig setup panel that you can get, which I did get, and it looks like the base of a fiber. And you've got these cool little corner blocks that you can move around and screw to wherever you need them. And this thing lines up with pins and drops in there, and it holds it in position, and you cannot move it. It's got these little corner holes right here, and it even tells you exactly where the corner of the X and Y is, so you can recreate jigs. But even without this, I've been playing around with it today. The honeycomb, using the 1/4 inch plywood that I use, the honeycomb, if you just put it in the bottom left corner, it is consistent every single time. And the camera is actually really consistent too. As long as you have the lid closed. If you have the lid up, it's going to take a picture of the back of your head. Found that out. But the honeycomb uses those same dial pins. The honeycomb uses those, and it sits in there and drops down on those pins. And so that honeycomb is always going to be in the same position it was the last time you put it in there. And that's awesome. Yeah, and like Hobo said, you really ain't got to put it together. Like there's what, 4 screws? I think 4 screws you have to put in to change out the mount for the uh, module. Yeah, Brandon, I went through the full. What I wound up having to do, because it was new hardware, I did have to restart my machine the other day, my computer. When I restarted my computer, it pulled up fine. Matter of fact, I'll show you. Let me grab some wood. I'll just throw this in here. Let's see if I can get my. If I didn't mess my darn all my stuff up a while ago when I restarted. But yeah, it is it's growing on me really quick. It performs really well.
while you're doing that, Thad, you're asking about using galvanized steel under your honeycomb, and it's probably not a good idea. You don't want to. It when you burn or weld on galvanized steel, it's burning away that zinc, and it creates zinc oxide fumes, which is really bad for your respiratory system. And so, I wouldn't recommend it because a laser beam is probably going to be doing that on a smaller scale. So either you'd have to figure out a way to remove the zinc from it, or I would just go back and grab a normal sheet of just plain steel or aluminum or something like that to go under your honeycomb.
Yeah, that camera does not like playing well with my other ones. I think I've got it hung up with my streaming software. I I should have left it. I had it on earlier and I closed light burn. I should have left it on. Yeah, I'm gonna
So
have to close.
Nomadic Renter, he's had his order for 2 weeks and sold $3 million art pieces, paid for himself already, made profits. That's awesome. So that's great to find kind of a niche in your area and be able to roll with it. And yeah, these diodes can pay themselves off pretty quick if you can find some things like that. So, but others don't get discouraged when that doesn't happen right away. Just sometimes it's finding what your local market or wherever you're looking for.
Yeah, my Streamlabs has got my camera hung up. It's associating it with one of my other cameras somehow. But anyway,
So Jeff, the material that I showed that was 3 millimeter, this was on the P2 CO2 laser. That was this one. And then a similar material using the 10 and 20 watt diodes were these. And so yeah, the cut speed on the CO2, I was getting up to 40 millimeters a second. Just it's pretty quick, but it comes at a cost of some extra cleanup afterwards as well.
yeah, this got it bogarted.
Yeah, ceramic tiles underneath your cutting surfaces are okay. You could even get some cement board. If you're at your home store, that should work pretty well. Depending on the distance that you have, like say in my enclosure, it's a good 4 or 5 inches away. That beam is fairly defocused by the time it's down there, so it doesn't take much of anything to absorb the beam at that point. I still have a piece of aluminum or just regular sheet metal down there in mine, but yeah, Jack's been posting photos on the Nextdoor app. That's a lot like Facebook neighborhood groups. If you're not familiar with Nextdoor, it usually is localized to your area and people. Mine seems to be about lost cats for the most part in our area, but yeah, it's a good place. Just you share what you're doing. Sometimes even if you're not even being salesy about it, just saying, hey, some cool things I made in my workshop, and then people start asking about it. So.
Lost cats.
Jeff, the speeds on the 3 millimeter for the 20 watt, it was 400 millimeters a minute, and the 10 watt, it was 300 millimeters a minute. And then the quarter-inch material was 150 and 300. And these are the X Tool D1, the Pro, and the original using their stock air assist. So.
All right. Questions, comments, concerns? If you haven't already, hit the buttons, guys. Hit the buttons. Uh, Steven, if you plan on doing anything over 3/4 of an inch thick, you had better get the riser base for the S1. Uh, Without it, you're limited to 3/4 of an inch thick material. Even with the honeycomb out of there, it almost scrapes it.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the same thing on the P2 as well. I haven't pushed it too hard as far as depth of material, but I don't think you can get more than over an inch without needing to get into the riser base on this one as well.
Yeah.
Another nice thing with the open flame diodes, just some soup cans, you get it elevated up a little higher.
That or a 2x4 turned on its edge.
Yeah, whatever, just got to be level. That's why I like using the soup cans. They're generally the same, pretty, yeah, generally full because then they got some stability to them. The open ones, they're not as stable. uh, D Black, are you using XCS or Lightbird, and then are you using your framing with the crosshair or with the laser? Because that'll kind of make some changes to that.
Yes. Yes, that is. That's one thing about using that crosshair, the red crosshair on an X tool, is it subtracts from the actual width of your usable workspace, because when you frame and then you go to cut, it actually has to move over to make the cut, and it will trip out of bounds on you. So yeah, that would be my thing. Is you're probably just a little too close to the edge. If you'll move over about 16 millimeters, you should be good.
So yeah, he says he's using light burning crosshairs. My personal preference is just to use the laser beam itself. You can set that up. You'll need to do that in XCS, as you need to turn off the crosshairs, and then that'll allow you to turn on the laser, go into light burn, go into your move function, and then you can add the power to that. You'll need to go into your device settings as well to turn on laser when framing, but it'll make it's going to do a perfect outline around where the laser head's going to move rather than that crosshair and trying to do the offset. So otherwise, yeah, if you can move it over to the right a little bit, like Clack said, it's probably just trying to do that offset and then hitting that boundary. That's one of the things I think we both talked about it, those proximity sensors rather than the hard end stop, the limit switches. They are too sensitive when you get close to it, so you lose a little bit of area.
Yeah, and if you like I said, if you're running that offset, you're going to lose that. I think it's on the yes the left side. Yeah, the left side. You lose 16 millimeters of workspace. Technically on the right side too, because it won't frame, but you don't ever notice that because it's always out of bounds.
Sounds like Brad gets to build a new shop with a restroom. See that you were talking a bunk and a bed. A restroom would be my first thing I'd put in a shop. You can always put a
Well,
cot
I'm
and
gonna, yeah, I'm
use a
gonna have
camp
to,
stove.
I'm gonna have to have something, I think, but I don't know where I'm gonna put it. I don't know that I want to spring for a whole other septic system.
Well,
So we'll
just
see.
a long pipe down to wherever.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah. Put me one of those sawdust. What do they call it? Sawdust
Composting
recycling.
toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I thought about just putting me an outhouse up there. My wife said no, but
I mean,
whatever.
it's better than better
I
than
just have to
not.
walk to. I just have to walk to the house because it's only about 60
See, you don't
yards.
have to put up with. Yeah, I just have to walk to the house, and then it turns January, and it's like something below zero, and that walk to the house is like,
Yeah. Yeah. The white side doesn't want to cut real well. Uh, I would always cut from the black side, the darker side, though, Sharon, because the white reflective is definitely going to inhibit some of the cutting ability. So you're definitely going to want to come through from that matte black side.
what else we got?
If there's a green dot in the middle of your design, that is because you are running current position. You need to change it to absolute coordinates there, John.
See,
Yeah, yeah.
there you go, Jeff. He's he's got the best addition to his shop, urinal. See, and those don't even really need to be plumbed.
Well, it's got to go somewhere, Steve.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just gonna, you could have it soak into a little French drain outside. It's not like
Get you
it's.
a 5 gallon bucket full of charcoal bricks buried.
I mean, people have done it.
Oh, trust me, we've put them in shooting houses before.
Uh huh.
Yeah. A funnel, a piece of 2-inch PVC, and a bucket. Oh my.
So Bill's got a question, kind of based on some of your gear.
I'm running the 6-inch Vivor choked down to 4-inch tubing. Now I've only got all total like 4 foot of tubing. So, and it's like one, like almost like a rolling 90 and then a straight shot out the wall. I'm running 4-inch tubing with the 6 to 4 reducers on either side, and it's not having any problem. The fan, like I said, the Vivor actually has variable power on it, so you can turn it down or turn it up if you feel like you're restricting it too much. Uh, but yeah, it's not giving me any problems. I just, matter of fact, Klein just upgraded to the Vivor 6-inch, doing the same thing, going down to a 4-inch, and it doesn't seem to be causing me any issues. The fan's still really really quiet because it doesn't have to spin as fast as the 4-inch did, and it's moving more than enough air because it's like a 400 and something CFM as opposed to a 200 in the 4-inch.
Yeah, I've got the same setup in my basement shop with a 6-inch fan that's choked down to 4-inch at the outlet. Um, and I know I'm losing some of that flow, but it's still a lot better than just the straight four. So
Yeah, and it's cheaper than having to drill bigger holes through your wall. you get the
yeah, drilling the
you
six
get
inch holes not cheap.
yeah. I've got a that's because the reason is I've got a 4-inch hole cutter. I don't
Yeah,
have a
me
six
too.
inch. And the six
Yeah.
inch hole cutters are a lot more expensive, and it's
Well,
hard
you
to
just
go
got
back with a 6 on top of a 4.
no. You got that little CNC machine, so you just bolt it to the wall without the spoil board, zero it on the wall, and just let it go to town. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
Well, don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah. Uh,
Gerard's asking, is it better to upgrade to 40-watt laser on X Tool or get the Rollei MK2? Um, my my take is two lasers are better than one, even if So I'm not sure if you've got the 10 or 20-watt on your X Tool, um, but I would rather have a whole separate machine than just another module for my existing frame. However, you're going to be going to a whole other ecosystem, so if you haven't been using Lightburn, you've just been using XCS, you're going to have to learn Lightburn a little bit, and there will be some idiosyncrasies between the two that like Xtool origin is in the upper left. I'm guessing the Rollei Lasermatics in the lower left.
mm-hmm.
And so when you're transitioning files from one to the other, they're going to be flipped vertically. So there's going to be just some weird oddities there, just because of the way Xtool does some things compared to most of the others. But for me, I would go with the second machine over just another module. How about you?
Yeah, if I was going to take a D1 and put a 40-watt module on it, yes, I would definitely just go buy another machine because now you got two machines, twice the workspace. Yes, it's going to be a little more expensive, but it's not really. I mean, from what I've seen of the 40-watt stuff, upgrading the D1, it's not too terrible. More expensive just to get the whole new machine. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't like taking a machine that's working and buying parts to upgrade it necessarily. Uh, just because, like I said, it's two machines is better than one anyway. Because you can have them both doing a job instead of just having one machine tied up that you've got an extra module in a box. So, I have actually upgraded a couple of machines, but it wasn't like I went out and bought the stuff to do it. It was because they wanted me to try out their upgrades. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, and they work, but if your budget allows it, it's always cooler to have two machines if you can afford it. So,
Yeah, I was just trying to find what is the module price on the 40-watt D1, because it's probably not
I
that far off from the 30-watt machine from Lasermatic. I can find it on their page. They got the infrared module that's discontinued or discounted. Oh, that is discontinued. Mm,
it's the the 40-watt module for D1 Pros, $12.99 on X2's website. That's what it's saying here.
Yeah. Okay. So you're already at the price of
Of a
the
full
20,
machine.
and for $1,600, so another what, 400,
Yeah,
three,
you get
400.
you get enclosure, fan,
Yeah.
camera, everything.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
would go for the whole other machine over just a module for them. So
yeah.
that's assuming I mean, I mean, you got to consider the working area too. So, because with the Lasermatic, it because of the nature of their kind of built-in frame and everything, that is the working area you get. So,
Beaver Creek, I use a switch that a fella that I met through YouTube makes. He's up from New York. I buy them on Etsy. And basically, what you do is you plug your chuck into a port, and you have a cable that goes from the switch to the machine and from the switch to the axis. And instead of having to unplug and plug, you just simply flip that switch and then enable it in Lightburn. Uh, I've got a video on that. If you look back on my channel, I've got a video on how that works inside my enclosure. But that enables you to go on on the most machines. It'll enable you to go from chuck to standard engraving in just no time. Let me see if I can find that video. Uh, yeah, here it is. I found it. I found it. But this is the video if you want to just like right click it and you can open another tab or something. And there should be links in there to the guy's Etsy shop where I get the where I got the switch from. And it is definitely makes it a lot easier. It's a time saver as well as it saves wear and tear on both your board, your stepper motor plugs, and the pigtails that connect everything. So it's a good investment in my opinion. And I'm running one over here. And Steve has one. I don't know if he ever installed it or not.
not yet. Uh, I haven't got this set up to where it would make sense just yet.
Yeah,
I got
got to
some
build
extra
you the
plywood
enclosure.
back there, so
Got to
new
build you the
enclosure.
enclosure.
It's at least I got some material on hand. So
Keith, Keith's asking about temperature. I posted that comment. Now my
I got it. I got
restream's
you.
acting up.
Uh, so the the couple things you need to worry about is that the condensation that's going to build up, going from a cold machine and then firing electronics through it with some heat and whatnot. That is going to be your biggest concern. And then also the computer that you're driving it with, that's probably not going to like getting too cold either, especially with LCD screens and whatnot. So um, I would be careful about it, but you can run them down, into some pretty low temperatures. I want to say like Xtool says something like 40 degrees. I think that's definitely even for their P2 with the right coolant mixture. But can you run it lower than that? Sure, but the colder you get, the more heat you run through there, you're going to run the risk of some damage there from condensation or other things. So
Well, for the first up until this past summer, I didn't have air conditioning or heat out here in the shop, and I haven't killed one yet from that. So,
you're
but
like 5 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. So
yeah, but it gets up to 140 out here in the summertime. Did you not watch some of my YouTube videos and see all the sweat running down my chest? I used to have to get out here early in the morning to do my videos before it got hot. After about lunch, I was done. I couldn't stay out here. And that's one reason I bought the air conditioner was because I figured out I could make twice as much money because I could stay out here building stuff all day.
So, yeah, if you're trying to engrave acrylic, Gerard's asking, can you laser on acrylic instead of using a drag bit on the CNC? You definitely can. However, the diodes, you're going to need to have some sort of binder. So a lot of people will use some form of just a black paint, like the chalkboard spray paint, the tempera paint. Technically, even like a black Sharpie marker would work as well. You got to give it something to interact with, and then it'll engrave fairly nicely. Um, Same thing with glass. You can do the same with that. It doesn't take a whole lot of power for glass. Acrylic's going to vary based on the color and that you put down, but yeah, it works pretty well and can give a nice frosting. So
And with some colors, you can actually cut without anything, like black.
yeah,
Black's good. Red does a good job cutting with a diode. And I've had some success with was it yellow? I think it was. But you start getting too close to blue or white, and you're going to lose effectiveness at cutting it.
hmm
But black acrylic is fun with a diode. You can make some really cool boxes and stuff like that with black acrylic.
yeah. Just make sure it's actual acrylic and not like polycarbonate. I
Like
think,
saying,
yeah, I think in it came in probably a sample pack from some company, and I can't remember which, but I finally threw it out because I kept grabbing it, going, "Oh, I'll test something on here," and it was coming out as just pure junk. And I was like, "Okay, this is not acrylic, and I need to get rid of it." Um, you can you can cut through polycarbonate with a CO2, but it's still ugly. If you're engraving, you can do both, but if you're cutting, cast acrylic um, is going to do better than extruded. Extruded has a tendency to kind of fracture a little bit as you cut it. So um, generally, I just stick with cast for both. But yeah, hobo, yeah, simple masking tape can work as well. Now, uh, I would use the I would use the green tape over the blue tape myself, just because of the absorption properties of it. But
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I try to avoid a whole lot of clear stuff on them, but glass, I use my marking spray. If I'm trying to etch clear acrylic, I will use either marking spray, or you could use just the chalk paint, uh, or you could use regular spray paint. You can paint it flat black with some Krylon, and it'll actually do it too if you're trying to make like a sign or something you want to backlight it. But there's ways that you can do it, but as far as cutting acrylic, you're not gonna cut it. Anything clear, you're not gonna cut it with a blue diode. I mean, I guess if you like spray painted it, run a line, spray painted
I,
it, run a line, spray, maybe eventually
I
you'd get through it in a year or so.
yeah, I've seen a couple people who argue I was able to cut through it, and you look at it and you go, okay, well, you melted through it eventually.
Yeah,
Um, and it's and they're coming at it from a point of like, you said I couldn't cut it. I don't care if it's
it
feasible or
looks
usable or
looks like
not.
you chewed it into or something.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, but I mean that's not what we're going for here. So, but yeah, it's you want to get through clear, you got to go with a CO2. Um, but you can definitely engrave on most of the others. Um, yeah, midnight. As far as cutting it, the masking just allows you to interact with that first layer, and so it's gonna on glass, it's just gonna etch that first layer, and then once it hits that, it's not gonna do anything else. So
Yep. All right, guys. If you haven't, please hit those buttons. Where's my TV at? Right there. Uh, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is. I am really trying to get my Facebook page up. I think it looks like I'm good to go on my goal for Christmas. I should be able to get that. I am trying to get up to 20,000, and it looks as though I am currently at 19,924. So
all
hopefully we'll
right,
be able to make that 20,000 mark. But I'm still trying to hammer that Facebook page. So if you're watching on YouTube or something and you have a Facebook page, please go over there. Go over there and follow the Clack Shack on Facebook, because that thing is struggling. I think I'm only at like 2,500 on Facebook. So yeah, it needs a little help. And I know Steve would like some help as well, even though he's working on his stretch goal now. He's made his goal, but he's trying to get a stretch goal out of it. So yeah, and like the video, you know, everybody seems to comment a lot. So I really, you don't have to, you know, we're not pushing the comments because we can't keep up as it is sometimes. But definitely the thumbs up and the follows help a lot.
Yeah, and um, if you're on Instagram, I am trying to post there a little more often as well. And I'm within like 9 or 10 from hitting 1K there, so that would be awesome to bump that one over as well. But uh, yeah, I know a number of people like to reach out to us as well. Um, the Through our Facebook pages is a really good way to do that. It's not going to get buried in email. It's easier for us to catch up there. Otherwise, we also have our laser engraving community group. I know it's linked down in my video.
It's
I
in
think
mine
you've
too.
got a link on yours. So that's a nice growing group of people where people, I mean, their questions are getting answered there without us. The group is really good at sharing ideas, troubleshooting things. So those are just a few other ways to interact. But yeah, we appreciate the support, the likes, the comments on all the videos and everything. So it keeps us going. So, um, yeah, so I don't think you've used Brilliance. You've just used Surmark, right?
Now I found something that worked and I stuck with it. So
Sure. I've used them both, but interestingly enough, the Surmark I had was it's a bottle it's a brush on product versus their spray on. Um, I don't remember why I bought that back, but that was back with my CO2. And I picked up the Brilliance in the aerosol can to try out a spray on, and I've found it works pretty well as long as you've got 10 watts and above on the diode. Um, I haven't really compared the settings between the two, but for me, the Brilliance has worked on anything I've tried it on. Like I say, 10 watt and above on diode, and definitely works fine on CO2. So maybe the settings would be different, but if it's working and it's less expensive until I run out of that can and need to buy it again, I mean, I guess I'll look at the price difference at that time. But um, I would say I would be fine going along with it. Now, I've heard some people say they've done durability tests where the Brilliance chipped off sooner than the Surmark, but that I haven't sat there with a Brillo pad to see which one rubs off sooner, but they both seem to apply and have a pretty dark engraved both of them. So things as they are, Brilliance is cheaper right now. That's the one I would go with.
Bill, that Adam Stack Matrix isn't a bad cutting surface. I've had one of them and used it, but honeycombs are a lot more popular, and with a honeycomb, you know, you do have to have something below it to kind of catch the laser. You can't just set it over top of wood or anything. But yeah, pretty much any machine you get these days, you're gonna want to get a honeycomb at least big enough to cover the footprint of the machine. I would say. What you pulling out over there?
Well, this did show up this week, and it's for the Atom Stack A24, so it's a little bit smaller than your typical ones, but I think it's about the same size as that Matrix panel, and this is from Atom Stack. And the thing that impressed me about it is how I'm trying to twist it, and it's just very rigid. There are a lot of these honeycombs, they're a bit flexible, and you got to make sure you support them. So if that size works for you, and you're looking at a honeycomb, I haven't played with this yet, but my initial impression is just about the durability of it, as far as holding its shape and not
Is it
deflecting in the middle.
is it steel or aluminum? I'm guessing steel.
I'm pretty sure it is. Let's grab a magnet, and well, magnets are sticking to it, so
It's steel.
it looks steel. So
It,
yeah, this is one I'm hoping to run some tests with the A24 in this, because I've got some. Actually, it'll be a project video, but I know other people have found these, and apparently they're listening. But it comes with a nice bag of these automotive kind of panel clips. So, you know, I haven't looked at the straight up price on this and how it would compare with some of the others as far as size, but as far as rigidity, I'm impressed with that one, and I have no idea what this weird tool is. It's got like a
That's to
little.
get those fender clips out with.
Oh, okay, that makes sense now. Gotcha.
Yeah, I recognize
Yeah, I
that
just
from my toolbox over here. I got one looks a lot like it.
anyway. Yeah, I forgot that this showed up this week, and I've been trying to design a couple of Christmas type project and ornament or display things, and I was going to cut one out probably with the we get that A24 back out because that's a neat little machine. Probably run those on there, see how that honeycomb does. But that's the biggest thing for me is like you said, is it steel? This one is, and is it fairly rigid? And that's the one thing that really surprised me about this one is it's hard to flex that one.
Yeah. Oh, is there today's I can get to get an idea of what today's I do. Gerard, as with any material, your best bet is testing, and that's what's bad about. Like I can tell you what my settings are, and if the acrylic that you get has more of a different color pigment in it, it's going to cut totally different. Nothing beats a good speed test, or at least a couple of guesses to confirm that it works in the corner of the material or something. Uh, but but yeah, it's no substitute for a speed test.
Um, and it's probably going to be I would start on the lower power settings because it's really easy to blast through that acrylic, and then you go from getting if you're going for a frosted look, you just want to kind of lightly hit the acrylic versus blasting into it. Like if you're doing black, it goes from a nice frosted engraving to a hole really quickly. So
Yeah. Yeah. I say that you got to break down and do your speed test. That's some black acrylic engraved right there. Uh, and so the first sheet that I do of a batch when I order it is run one of these, and the results are very similar all over the spectrum on here. And I don't even remember which machine I did this with, but I didn't write it on here nowhere, so it's done.
so this is here's your laser shop supply tip. Get yourself a bag of these gallon Ziploc bags and put all your test materials in one bag.
I usually engrave it on it before I pull it off the machine, but
I
for
know.
some reason I
Yeah.
didn't with this one.
Even
But
so,
anyway,
I usually toss them all in there with like the manual and any extra parts, and I have kind of just a drawer that I stack them in as far as
I use
yeah,
boxes.
you got your boxes, but you know,
Each machine is assigned a box here, so that I can keep up with all those little doodads and stuff that goes with them.
yep.
Well, I can tell you right now, engraving, my go-to for center of my test is 100 and 100 in the center. A little far, a little below that, a little above that. Run a quick test, ballpark it a little closer, and then do your detail. But
Now, of course, he's doing millimeters per second, so if you're using
yeah,
millimeters per minute, you got to change that.
yeah, 100 millimeters per
'Cause
second.
otherwise, they're going to be melting some stuff real quick.
Because see, this one starts at 100 millimeters a second and goes up to 150. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the engrave, other than being deeper, really the color does not change until you get up around the 150, and it changes just ever so slightly.
Yeah, pneumatic or enter. I've done that too, where I stick a piece of masking tape on the back of there and scribble on it with a marker or pencil. Or if it's just wood, a lot of times I'll just write on the back there. Like on this one, I wrote. It took 24 minutes to run this test, so I often put little notes on there that might not be engraved into it. And sometimes, yeah, I got to use masking tape if it's like glass or tile or acrylic. So
Well, I've gotten better at using my materials libraries, so that's one reason why I'm not as particular now, because I've got to where I've started setting them up on all my machines now. What just fell?
I don't know.
Ah, my Facebook thing fell.
And not enough lights. It's fallen down.
No, I tore it down when I put my camera back over there earlier, probably.
Oh well, that'd be nice, is to be able to add just some basic info like that to Lightburn's test. Um, Machine and material or whatnot would be great.
Or add a photo. That would be awesome.
Photo.
Yeah, where you could take a picture of this and then just upload it to that material profile.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. How hard would that be? Just
I mean,
little,
let them put
little,
some
little
text in there
database,
first.
little
But
database, little database action. Wouldn't hurt. All right, guys, it is getting late. I'm starting to yawn because I'm old. Uh, Anybody's got any questions? Now's the time. And if you hadn't hit the buttons, please do. Please do. And we do have somebody was asking about sending us a picture or something. Join the laser engraving community page that we started, and that's where Steve and I troll through there pretty regular looking at stuff. And also, you can message me or Steve, either one, on our Facebook chat or our Facebook pages. Messaging is not really a thing YouTube had in mind when they built it, so there's really not a way for us to conversate other than being in public comments. So Facebook is the best way to be able to message me and send me pictures or little snippets of video or something like that if you have a question. So that's why I try to tell everybody, if you're needing troubleshooting, please go to my Facebook page. Email is painfully slow and very limited on what you can do. Messenger is a little more real time. But now during the day, when I'm at work, it may be that afternoon after 4 o'clock before I get back with you. So just keep that in mind. I do have a job I have to go to still temporarily.
I mean that one where you're like Barney Fife, right?
Oh no, I'm the desk police. I write policy. I write policies and regulations and do risk assessments and civil litigations and that kind of stuff. Now I don't do a whole lot of running through the woods chasing people anymore.
Well,
It's
maybe
good
that's
though
why.
because I got a bad back now, so it's actually pretty good because I've got this really nice office chair that's got this lumbar supported and everything. So
Nice, nice. So, uh, Wendy, no, we won't. We're not gonna make fun of anybody. The Atom Stack A5 Pro Plus. It's a good little machine. You can do a lot with it. And as a matter of fact, a lower wattage machine like that actually does some higher detail work on certain things. So
and if you
there's a lot of people
master
that keep them around.
and if you master that machine, you can run any of the rest of them. The
Yeah,
fundamentals are the same.
yeah.
So
A
and
lot of
that's
people keep
that.
them.
Go ahead.
I was just to say, a lot of people keep them around just to be able to have that nice detail. The like Norton white tile method of painting the tile and engraving the paint that way. That calls for low power and high detail. So
Yeah.
and yeah, having fun. That's the whole key with it, is enjoying it and having fun with it.
But I will make a bet though. I bet Wendy within the next 6 months decides, or if she doesn't buy another laser, she's going to be looking because it does. And once you get one, it's kind of like what was it, the cookie commercial? Nobody can have just one. I
Is it
mean,
Pringles that you can't? Yeah,
is it
once you
Pringles?
pop,
Yeah,
you can't stop. You can't
yeah.
have just
And
one.
once you get a laser, it's addictive. You're like more power,
Yeah.
more speed, more power, more speed, more power, more speed. So, but it is fun.
It's just congratulations. You're going to get your laser tomorrow. Can't wait to get it set up. Any first day advice? Um,
Check the firmware. Check the firmware. Check for
so yeah, I mean
updates.
the F1 is there's a few screws you got to take out to remove or to release the gantry and such. So check for that. There's usually a quick start guide with X Tools stuff. Walk through all those steps. Make sure you've got them all in order. And then yeah, make sure you got the software. You're going to want to use Xtool Creative Space to get that firmware updated and such. And then the first thing I would do is make sure you got some scrap material on hand. And I mean, this can just be cardboard, but see if you can find some craft wood somewhere, and do a material speed test. That'll teach you a lot about your laser. Um, I've got a video I put out just not long ago on making them and using the creative space material array. You can watch that, and it'll walk you right through it. Um, and then just start playing around. You know, expect to go through some material and just figuring out what it can do and how it does it.
And I know where there's some videos about the S1 too on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
online.
other thing, I don't have one handy, but get yourself a little spray bottle of water.
Yeah,
Just gotta have something in case you get those flare ups or whatnot. You know, because when you're figuring out your laser, sometimes you get your power settings off, and it starts smoldering a little fire. Um, just hit it with a spray bottle real quick, put that right out, and you should be fine.
no man, they that's what I make a majority of my stuff out of, like boxes and stuff like that. I think it was at $13 a sheet last time I went. And I bought 10 sheets, and I rip it down to 37 and a half by 17 for my big enclosure, and then 16 by 16 for my other ones. But now there's some things that you're going to want a little bit nicer looking wood, or more solid wood, but it's a really great material for just making random stuff. It's pretty sturdy.
You like some nice cedar.
I burnt wood like that last night.
I burnt wood like this today, but I saw these. I was cutting it up into firewood. I'm like, I could cut a couple quarter-inch strips out of that. These are a little over quarter-inch, but figured I'd
Yeah,
save them for some fodder.
yeah. Klein was looking at it. I had a piece of 4x4 block of like the straightest cross cut white pine or white oak that you ever seen last night. And Klein's like, "Oh, I can't do nothing with that," and he's got a bandsaw, and I'm like, "Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. You just resaw it, quarter-inch
Yep,
thick. But he left it here, so it's mine now. I'm gonna put a resaw blade on it and cut it up.
there you go.
Well, Trey, congratulations. Says he's getting his later on this week.
Nice. Um,
You're gonna probably be wanting a jig kit for that, and you can come check out my Etsy shop when you get ready for it. Once you get the new war off of it.
Mark, hit me up on Facebook. I'll have to look it up. I've got those inside, so I can't reference them right now. But there's two different sizes, and I can check on that for you. Of course, I buy them at like 1,000 at a time, so I'm not sure I can give you where to buy them, but I'll get you at least the sizes.
That's a lot of
So yeah,
O-rings. You better not ever drop those. You'll never get them picked up.
well, they're easier to pick up than when you drop a bundle of lenses on the floor, and that's really sad.
Mm. Yeah. All right, guys. Hour and 48. Ooh, I gotta have another Tums. That meatloaf is actually starting to talk to me. Hour and
Yeah,
48 in, so it won't be much longer. We're gonna have to get out of here.
I figured I'd be nice and not send you a pic of the. I had a big old beef roast on the grill all day, so
Well, you didn't
pulled
bring me
that
none
off.
of that.
Well, I
Oh, okay. I
they were
recognize
good.
the name now, Steven.
Told you, just stop by. Had some leftovers for you.
Yeah. I think you're a little too far for DoorDash.
Well,
But yeah, like I said, the laser world is evolving quickly, guys. Like I said, I finally got my hands on one of these rollies, and I don't guess Rich can be mad at me. It's what it looks like. I mean, I know it doesn't have two L's, but we're in the South. We say things different. Rich understands. But this thing's really surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. And I'm gonna, like I said, hopefully this week I'll be able to piece together like my all encompassing first impressions of the machine, and give you guys a little more idea what I think about it, and see some of the things that I feel like are advantages, and things that they've built into it as far as engineering, that's bounds ahead of some of the other machines. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I'm really happy with it so far. So happy that it's up here on the front row, like so I can use it. You got to work pretty hard to get up here on the front row. That's all I can. That's all I can say. It's got to be able to be used.
Yeah. Well, excited to see your video. See what else you do with it.
I can't wait till you get your hands on one because you're just gonna go like full blown nerd, like geek out because it is awesome, dude. I mean, cable management is on
That's
point.
a huge one. Yeah. I mean, I think in most of my videos I've pointed that out. So it'd be really nice to say, hey, someone finally got it. Someone finally did it right.
It's got three drag
So
chains on it. It's got a drag chain on the air hose. It's got two drag chains on the wiring that goes to the gantry. Everything is secured.
mhm.
You got one little tuft of hose right there. Everything else is concealed from the factory. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
You would like it. We'll try to get you in on one somehow. But yeah, guys. Last call for questions, comments, concerns. Anybody wants to joke on Steve? Steve jokes. Anybody? Brian. Brian's always good for a joke. He's been being quiet, kind of quiet. Hobo, it is very precise and it's fast to be as bulky as it looks. As far as the extrusions and stuff are real stocky. It looks almost like a CNC the way it's built. It's actually really fast, so it's crazy. Yeah, Gerard, I will be doing a full first impressions review. I did a little live the other day, kind of unboxed it and played with it a little bit because I was so excited. I didn't want to have to like stop and move cameras. So I just did a live unboxing. We played with it a little bit. And then sometime this week, hopefully, I'll be able to get around to doing a full, you know, overall look at it, first impressions, what I like about it and what I don't, which I can't really come up with a whole lot that I don't like about it. Uh, I wish it was extended, but maybe that'll come up one day. Oh crap! I knew it, Brian. I knew it.
Uh,
I knew he'd get me. But
yeah. Well,
uh,
we do like to leapfrog each other with the random toys and things we're doing
I
in
was
our
fixing to
shop.
say,
So
Steve threw that one back at me because it wasn't right after I said that he's like, "Didn't you just get a rollie?" And I'm like, "Crap, I did." But it is. I will say that as far as engineering wise, and from what I've seen so far, guys, it's amazing. So definitely, definitely not a bad machine. Uh, as long as, like I said, as long as the workspace restrictions fit your needs, I would recommend it for anybody. The it does have the bottom does come out, so you do have some options as far as engraving taller things and stuff like that. So, Steven
so
wants to know
I
why Steve brought a ladder to a bar.
I'm hoping this is this has got to be a joke or something.
I hope it's PG.
But so I might be able to beat you a little bit on swag though.
Oh no, what have
I'm
you done
gonna
got?
I'm gonna see if I can.
Oh, you finna make
I'm
you
gonna
some
see if I
old
could.
Vintage Workshop koozies.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can screen print on neoprene, and because you can get these, you can get like a pack of these, like 50 of these, pretty cheap. And yeah, if I can do that, I guess I'll have a new cool thing to hand out at the next event I go to or something. So, got to see if it works first, though.
Well, good luck on that. Good luck on that. I hope it works for you.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure it's part of a learning experience. So,
Martin, yes, I got it's a 30 watt or a 10. It's switchable, but it's the MK2. So it's the newest Rolly that they have, and I don't this video is not necessarily about it, and I don't want to go all in talking too much about it because, like I said, right now I'll show you what my honeycomb looks like. I have used it quite a bit, uh, and I'm really enjoying it, but it's still mostly new. I mean, you can look at the honeycomb and tell. I've put it in. It's put in a little bit of work so far. That was a brand new honeycomb, but this is what makes this machine excel above all others that I have used. These two little holes here, and these holes in the bottom where the pins go in the honeycomb to hold it in place. That makes all the difference in the world. Uh, because you can literally stick a piece of material in this bottom left corner and know exactly where it is on the workspace. It's pretty awesome. Uh, and then of course I have the jig panel as well, and you can make jigs with it too. Uh, I haven't used it a whole lot because this works pretty well just as is, but I do plan to use it to do a little bit more elaborate setups as soon as I get some more time. This weekend, the shop upgrades took a little while, but see, once you put that honeycomb in there, like you would tip this table over trying to move that honeycomb. It's attached to the machine. The camera, the install on the camera is clean, and you can't tell me X-Tool couldn't have done that. The top, I mean, I was gonna do it, but I'm afraid I'll bust the top trying to go through the acrylic, so I got to get me a different bit. But I have a fisheye camera, and I was going to do basically what they did here, except come across the top, out the back, and plug it in back there. But yeah, but this thing, you got the camera, you got the fixed honeycomb. I mean, it pretty much has it all, as long as the workspace is acceptable for what you're going to be doing with it, which is right around 400 by 400. The size of the module does seem to dictate your usable workspace, because I did notice that the 20 watt has a little more work area than the 30 because, of course, the module's bigger. Here's just a quick question we can answer before we go, Steve. We've got about 4 more minutes here. Would you like to take this one? This is a little more technical.
So with so talking about rotaries, and can we use any rotary with any laser and within reason? So it's going to depend on the pinout of your controller to the pinout on the stepper on the rotary. So generally, yes, they're just a 4-pin device. Just sometimes the wires are swapped around and you might need to get an adapter, and then you need to be able to dial in the steps per rotation, or the millimeters per rotation, as Lightburn puts it, for the controller that's driving the stepper, to make sure that it's rotating the right amount to translate your image and whatnot. So technically, yes, but it may depend on the wiring that's available on the rotary versus the laser controller.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, most situations you can, but you're going to have the right cable. Was it Mark? The bottom of this thing has screws that you can take out, and the center part of the bottom comes out. So technically, if I wanted to engrave a bar stool, I mean, you could nearly do that. I mean, I haven't tried that yet, but the bottom does come out, and you could. I mean, I've seen people, using 2x4s and sawhorses to do tops of bar stools and so forth. But when you take the honeycomb out, there's about 3 inches of space inside the enclosure as is. From the surface of the honeycomb down, you're looking at, I want to call it 3 inches. It may not be, but you can do really tall stuff without having to take the bottom out. But if you really needed to, you could take the bottom out and just space the machine up, or put it on risers, or whatever you needed to do to be able to put larger stuff underneath it. And everything's pinned, like the chuck. The bottom of the machine has more of those locating pins, and they go into the bottom of the chuck. So when you set this chuck on there, it has a locating pin here and a locating pin here that it sits on, so that the chuck is square, true, and it doesn't move. So they really, like I said, apparently we think alike, because they've got everything basically already jigged in this machine, which kind of hurts my Etsy sales, but whatever. It's really set up nice, and like I said, hopefully all that'll be in my video. Steve will make fun of me because there's so many things that I want to mention about this machine. It's probably going to be another one of those. What'd you call it? A mini series?
Made for TV special. Well,
Yeah,
docu
Dateline.
series, yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's there's a
and
lot of
watching those
things.
Netflix specials, it goes, 3 episodes deep.
Yeah, well, there's just a lot to mention about this machine. I'm gonna try to go through it as fast as I can, and I'm probably gonna miss some stuff, but I think I know what most people look for in a machine, and I think I can hit the hot spots really quick. So we're gonna try to do that. But uh, but yeah, it's a monster so far. I love it. Uh, like I said, can't find anything bad to say about it so far. Episode 38. Oh, you better be glad my sounds ain't working. I don't guess they're working, are they? No.
So oh man, I can't remember the guy. There's a British guy who did a huge long series on light burn and CO2 lasers and whatnot. And yeah, he was on like hundreds of episodes in, and he's a very smart guy, but talked a lot and went into a lot of detail. And you learn a lot from him, but you also be like, okay, I need to just turn this off and absorb a little bit now. But
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's 9:01, so we're running late. We're on overtime now, so we'll have to call it a night for today. But I appreciate y'all. Like I said, stay tuned for more on the Rolly. I will try to get that video out sometime this week. I just wanted to do some more testing and make sure I understood how everything worked. Like I said, I've been reading the book, making sure there's no extra hidden features that I'm not aware of. But so far, so good with it. And like I said, more to come. Steve, to you, fella.
yeah, no, thanks everyone for coming by this week. Great back and forth with Clack and answering questions. So, like you said earlier, hit us up on Facebook in that group. Hit our socials and such. Good way to connect with us. And I know both of us will be working on some projects and some equipment this week, so will be some videos coming out, I'm sure. Otherwise, we'll see you again the same time next week.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one and be safe.